Arsenal might not be popular champions, but honestly, why should they care?
I love my players. That's the highlight. I love my players, we love our players, and I love the way we compete.
Because right now Arsenal are closer than ever to winning the Premier League for the first time in more than 20 years. With 7 points clear at the top and only a handful of matches left to play, Mikel Arteta's side are on the verge of ending one of the longest title droughts in English football. After more than 2 decades of waiting, Arsenal are finally within touching distance of the Premier League crown.
I think I've been coming here since 2019, but obviously now in 2026, managed to win a fair few awards from this amazing night in my time, and obviously here tonight, so yeah, it's a beautiful night.
The team now enters the most decisive stretch of the season, with the fans dreaming of something they haven't experienced since the early 2000s. There are 8 games left, 8 finals, 8 chances to prove that this Arsenal team is finally ready to break the club's painful drought.
To Manchester City, an unprecedented 4th title in a row, making Premier League history following their 3-1 win over West Ham.
With 67 points on the table, the Gunners sit top of the league, holding a 7-point advantage over Manchester City, their biggest rival in the title race.
We won, 6 Premier Leagues.
Guardiola's side may still have a game in hand, but this isn't the same Arsenal we've seen in previous seasons. The recent victory against Brighton strengthened their position at a crucial moment in the campaign. According to multiple statistical models, Arsenal now have over a 90% probability of winning the league if they simply maintain their current form until the end of the season. To truly understand the magnitude of this moment, you have to look back. The last time Arsenal lifted the Premier League trophy was in 2003 to 2004, when Arsène Wenger's legendary Invincibles completed the entire season without losing a single match. Since then, the club has lived through years of rebuilding, managerial changes, and projects that never quite reached their potential. And in recent seasons, Arsenal have already come painfully close. They finished as runners-up multiple times, falling just short of the title. In fact, in 11 of the last 30 Premier League seasons, the team leading the table after 28 matches did not end up winning the league. And Arsenal themselves experienced that heartbreak when they led the race in 2023 and again in 2024.
A really sad day, a lot of difficult emotions. Obviously, we lost the game. We lost the championship after 10.5 months fighting for it.
But something about this team feels different. Arteta's Arsenal are playing football we've never seen before. There is more maturity, more consistency, and above all, a new ability to handle pressure, something that defines champions in the brutal final weeks of a Premier League season.
I said, if we don't win all our games, I'm gone, I'm out. And look what we've been doing since then. So obviously, Arteta, well done, you're doing your job.
Every point will matter from here on out. Manchester City remain a constant threat because of their experience and winning mentality. But the truth is simple now. Arsenal control their own destiny. 6 years later, Mikel Arteta is running a completely different Arsenal, both on and off the pitch. If you rewind 6 years, Arsenal were stuck in mid-table. The club looked like a ship without direction, drifting through the final months of Unai Emery's chaotic reign, with frustrated fans who had completely lost faith in the project. The atmosphere around the club was bleak. And the irony is this: in almost any other era, Arsenal would already have won the Premier League by now. They have finished second 3 times under Arteta. But the problem is that Arteta is competing against arguably the greatest manager of all time, Pep Guardiola, and perhaps the greatest team the Premier League has ever seen, Manchester City. Under Arteta, Arsenal have broken scoring records, and in the 2023-2024 season, they reached 89 points, just 1 point short of the Invincibles' legendary tally, the second highest points total in the club's entire history. In almost any normal season, those numbers would have been enough to win the league comfortably, but City still beat them by just 2 points. Even Arteta admits that when he first arrived, he wasn't sure how the story would end. It was his first senior managerial job, stepping out of Pep Guardiola's shadow at Manchester City, and he inherited an Arsenal side desperately trying to reconnect with the glory days of Arsène Wenger. But what followed has become one of the most remarkable rebuilds in modern English football. When Arteta arrived, Arsenal was a fractured club. Fans were arguing with each other, the atmosphere was toxic, the boardroom was divided, and inside the dressing room, things were even worse: cliques, egos, big-name players underperforming, and a culture that lacked discipline.
Yeah, but bro, this is what's going on here. The agenda and hive should be Arsenal, that's it. That is it. Like, forget everything else. Thierry's a legend of the club. Yeah. And we have spoken about this in the last supporters, but we had 2 different guests on the last supporters. So for me, it's refreshing to hear honest views from the heart. He even mentioned in that I didn't grow up an Arsenal fan initially, but I grew to love it. So they're bigger fans than me, he said. But this is my opinion. Petit over the years has been honest with his opinion.
Yep.
But guess what happens? They get pushed. You can't push Henry. Henry's a cultural icon. Forget just Arsenal, football and more. Whereas, you know, Petit's a different example of a player that tries to speak up or speaks up when he's given the opportunity, but is smacked back down. Like, you know them games, them whack-a-mole games. As soon as these hives hear a bit of negativity, bang, they're all onto it, straight in. And that's my problem with it. It creates this. That is the creator of everything else off the back of it, because the support and love for things that are not really.
Arteta's first big success came quickly. He won the FA Cup in his first season, and that trophy probably bought him time, because the next 2 full seasons were incredibly turbulent. In fact, there was a moment when everything nearly collapsed. When Arsenal lost at home to Burnley in December 2020, it was arguably the lowest point of Arteta's entire reign. If a full Emirates Stadium had been present that night, many people believe the pressure might have forced the club to sack him. But Arsenal made a decision that changed everything. They stood firm, and their patience became a powerful reminder to the rest of football. Real transformation takes time.
I think Arteta plays on sparks where he'll watch someone, they'll do something wrong, and then, oh, you're out the team. Do you know, I've seen it too. You know, we see it with Calafiori not long ago. He had a nightmare game, gets ripped off, don't play again. You know, Eze gets caught on the far post against Cash at Villa. Don't really play again. You've got to give them a chance. Trust in them more, these players. I don't think he does that enough, in my opinion.
Arteta is known for his intensity. Anyone who works with him will tell you that. But over the years, he has also developed as a leader.
Why don't you just play like that with that amount of energy, have a go at them, attack them, you know, and Wolves wouldn't have been able to live with Arsenal. So for me, I think they've got to take the game to Chelsea. Chelsea will probably sit back like they did in the semi-final and soak it up and try and get Arsenal on the counter-attack. But yeah, big football match this. I think if Arsenal win this game, that you could tick another big team off that they've beaten.
And Merce is right, Boydie, to talk about, particularly that performance against Wolves. It was so poor by the standards they've been setting this season. Yeah. But can we read too much? Listen, you only beat what's in front of you, and they did so well against Tottenham last week. But we've talked about Tottenham. They're so far off it at the moment. Yeah. Can we read too much into that winning performance?
Yeah, because it's a derby. You know, I mean, I know Tottenham are struggling right now, but to go and put on the performance that they did, and I thought Gyökeres was outstanding. I mean, there's been times where he's been criticised this year. I don't know if maybe because Tottenham, Tottenham started with a back three. Usually when you see Gyökeres, he's trying to back in, he's trying to fight with defenders. I thought at the weekend it was an outstanding performance because he didn't go and get involved in the battle. He didn't go and try and play up against them. He played in between them, he played to the side of them. He caused Tottenham all sorts of problems, and when he's in this form, I think he's very difficult to stop, because there's one thing, yes, he's not hit the amount of goals that...
Early criticism suggested he could come across as arrogant or lacking humility. Today, people inside the club say something very different. Arteta has learned how to connect with players and build a culture of accountability. That culture became clear when he made one of the most controversial decisions of his reign, removing Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang from the project.
Siempre tenido un sueño de jugar en la liga y pienso que es una oportunidad para mí increíble. Desde pequeño es un sueño, entonces esta es la oportunidad de mi vida, y he hablado un poquito con el míster y él me ve jugar de 9 y yo estoy pronto a jugar ahí de 9. También si un día me necesita jugar en la banda, no haría problema porque es que no estaba contento y ya está. No te puedo decir más porque ha pasado exactamente así. Estaba no muy contento, yo me quedé muy tranquilo y ya está.
It wasn't just a tactical decision, it was a message. Even the biggest star at the club would not be allowed to ignore the standards. Being late, breaking discipline, damaging the collective culture, none of it would be tolerated. That moment reset the tone of the entire club, and from there, Arteta began building something much bigger. He didn't just recruit players to make Arsenal competitive again, he recruited players to make Arsenal champions. A squad built to play a level of football that Arsenal fans hadn't seen in more than 20 years. A true champions team, and that is where the real story begins. Mikel Arteta has built a monster, the most complete Arsenal side in more than a decade.
But whatever it is, whatever it takes, that's what champions do, just to get over the line, take as many points as you possibly can.
I was very impressed with them, and I can't see it stopping. I have to be honest. I think the balance of their squad now.
Because throughout football history, championship teams are always built the same way, on defence. Attack wins headlines, but defence wins titles. And right now, Arsenal have the best defensive structure in England. Some raw numbers across Europe might occasionally point to teams like Roma, but the bigger picture tells a different story. What Arteta has created is arguably the most complete defensive system in world football. This season, Arsenal have kept opponents under one expected goal in 31 of their 40 matches. That's 76% of their games, the highest rate across Europe's top 5 leagues. No team suffocates opponents quite like Arsenal do, and that dominance shows up clearly in the clean sheet numbers. Kepa Arrizabalaga has kept 3, while David Raya has recorded 19.
Here's Rutter. Raya makes the save.
That means Arsenal have shut teams out 20 times in 38 matches, more than half the season. Since the start of the 2023 to 2024 campaign, Arteta's Arsenal have conceded the fewest goals per game of any club across Europe's top 5 leagues. This isn't a temporary hot streak. This is a defensive identity. At the heart of that system are William Saliba and Gabriel Magalhaes. Together they've now played 137 matches in all competitions. In the Premier League alone, they've started 106 games together, at least 27 more than any other centre-back pairing since 2021. That kind of chemistry cannot be manufactured. Their connection was immediate when they first lined up together in 2022, and it has only grown stronger. Off the pitch, they're close friends. On the pitch, they instinctively understand each other's positioning, timing and strengths. And their understanding isn't just defensive, they even combine offensively, like we saw in their goal against Chelsea. Most importantly, they can defend in any situation. If Arsenal need to drop deep and defend endless crosses, they dominate the box. If they push their defensive line high and leave space behind them, they have the pace and awareness to recover. It's extremely rare to find centre-backs of that size Saliba at 6'4" and Gabriel at 6'3", who are so comfortable defending high up the pitch. But Arteta's defensive brilliance doesn't stop there. The Spanish manager has once again shown his tactical genius with the additions of Piero Hincapié and Christian Mosquera. Let's start with the Ecuadorian. According to the analytics platform DataMB, Piero Hincapié ranks among the very best defenders in the league in multiple categories: duels won, completed passes, progressive passes and short passing accuracy. He consistently ranks first or near the top among players in his position. His composure on the ball and defensive intelligence have made him a hugely influential piece in Arteta's system. And then there's Christian Mosquera, the former Valencia defender, who has quickly become another elite option in Arsenal's defensive structure. Whenever Mosquera plays, Arsenal never look like they're missing anyone. He's an exceptional one-on-one defender, incredibly versatile across the back line, and extremely composed carrying the ball forward. His ground duel success rate above 70% makes him one of the best 1v1 defenders in the league. Although naturally a centre-back, he is also adapted to play at right-back, providing cover for Jurriën Timber and Ben White. His passing accuracy has climbed to over 91%, and his pace allows him to defend high up the pitch while dealing with counter-attacks effectively in both back 3 and back 4 systems. And the physical dominance doesn't end with the defenders. Declan Rice brings relentless running and brutal tackling in midfield. Jurriën Timber might be the most aggressive defender in the entire league. Ricardo Calafiori has the body of a centre-back, but plays at left-back. Ben White and Miles Lewis-Skelly combine intensity with composure. Every line of this team defends with purpose. That's why Arsenal are not only the best defence in the Premier League today, but very likely the best defensive unit for years to come. And if history tells us anything, it's this: defences win championships. But if there are two players who have truly given Arsenal balance the final pieces that make them genuine contenders for everything they are, Martin Zubimendi and Declan Rice. Martin Zubimendi might actually be Arsenal's most important signing. While everyone was screaming last summer that Arsenal needed a striker, Zubimendi arrived quietly. And since then, he has slotted into this team like he's been playing there for years. When your midfield partner is Declan Rice, one of the most expensive players in British football history, the spotlight naturally goes somewhere else. But here's the crazy part. Zubimendi has played more minutes than any other Arsenal outfield player this season, with 2,530 minutes on the pitch. And remember, he's a defensive midfielder. It's not glamorous. It's not flashy. Yes, he's chipped in with 6 goals and 3 assists, but that's not why Mikel Arteta brought him to North London. His job is protection, structure, balance. He's the invisible glue that holds the entire system together. According to Opta, Zubimendi currently leads the Arsenal squad in interceptions with 33. He also tops the team for successful passes in the opposition half with 782.
Cross up.
He ranks second for tackles made with 53, third for possessions won with 97, and third for total successful passes with 1,634. That's complete midfield control, without the headlines. And there's one player who has clearly benefited from his presence, Declan Rice.
Declan, on the back of that win, I've called Arsenal the best team in Europe right now. And speaking to you, I think I'd put you as one of the best, if not the best midfielder in Europe also right now. Now, not thinking just about tonight, I'm thinking about the weekend. And you've got Chelsea. And it's Caicedo. And you'll be well aware there's been a lot of talk about Rice and Caicedo all season.
Because Zubimendi takes care of all the so-called dirty work, screening the defence, reading danger, winning second balls, controlling transitions. That allows Rice to push further forward and influence the game in completely different areas of the pitch. And the numbers show it. Rice already has more than half the goal contributions he recorded last season. And with Arsenal competing on four fronts, he could easily surpass his previous total of 19 goal contributions. If you compare Rice's per-game numbers from 2024-2025 to this season, the shift is obvious. Fewer purely defensive actions, more chances created, more progressive passes, more influence in the final third. That's not random, that's structural evolution. If Arsenal go on to lift silverware this season, the extra protection Zubimendi provides at the base of midfield and the freedom it has given Rice to attack could make Martin Zubimendi the most pivotal signing of the Arteta era. Martin Zubimendi might be Arsenal's smartest signing of the window, the silent engine that gives the team balance and striker. But if there is one player who could truly decide whether Arsenal win the Premier League or even the Champions League, it is Victor Gyökeres. And his explosion has come at the perfect moment. In just 2 months, the entire narrative around him changed. The Swedish striker went from a questioned signing to one of the most feared forwards in England. Up until mid-December 2025, his form was worrying. After his first 14 Premier League games, he had scored only 4 goals, 3 of them early in the campaign. And the problem was not only the numbers, but his presence. Against Wolves and Club Brugge, he was almost invisible, with very few touches and almost no chances. The issue was not that he was missing opportunities, but that he was not getting into them. Pundits began questioning whether the former Sporting striker fit Arteta's positional system, especially as Gabriel Jesus started regaining form, and even Mikel was used further forward with surprising success.
I don't think signing Gyökeres wins you the league. I think if Arsenal are going to win the league, it's still down to the 2 centre-backs and the goalie. I still think Arsenal's thing will be, we're going to be the best team in this league defensively.
Well, this is why. Then everything changed. In less than 2 months of 2026, Gyökeres scored 6 Premier League goals and 8 in all competitions, becoming the top scorer in England in 2026.
The mask is back. The mask is back. Got my striker. And I'm here to talk football with my boys. As you know, repping Arsenal. That's not why I'm in this get-up today.
Why are you in this get-up?
I got my striker, bro. This time where things are looking up. I told everybody we go to the next level, we get the striker. So I'm just celebrating a momentous occasion.
The turning point was his brace in the North London derby against Tottenham. More important than the goals was how he looked. He was touching the ball more, dropping deeper, combining with teammates and acting as a true reference point. Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher even called it his most complete performance in an Arsenal shirt.
End of the pitch, and then at the other end of the pitch, I think it was so important what Gyökeres did today. I like him as a centre-forward in the sense that I like a centre-forward who's imperfect, who's a bit rugged, who's a bit of a handful. I'd hate to play against him. Sticks his body in, sticks his backside in. Doesn't necessarily do everything in the sort of more smooth or perfect way. And there's times this season where you've thought, is he a hit or is he a miss? Is he good or is he average? You know, you're almost from week to week balancing a little bit about what this guy is. But if you could actually encapsulate and package up a performance of what you'd want from him, you got it out there today again in a really big game.
This showed that the problem was not incompatibility, but adaptation. Gyökeres improved in 3 key areas. First, his link-up play. Instead of waiting inside the box, he now drops deeper, connects play and drags defenders out of position, as seen in his goal against Inter Milan when he dominated 2 centre-backs physically, before finishing brilliantly. Against Tottenham, he showed the same evolution, creating separation in tight space and finishing with authority. And even against weaker opposition like Kairat, the same patterns appeared. holding the ball, adjusting outside the box and finishing decisively. Second, his positional awareness. Both goals against Tottenham came from perfectly timed movements at the edge of the box, something he struggled with earlier in the season. In his second goal, he read Ødegaard's movement, beat the centre-back with perfect timing, accelerated past the right-back and finished powerfully with no chance for Vicario. Third, his adaptation to Premier League intensity. Moving from Portugal to England is extremely demanding because of the pace, physicality and pressure, and Gyökeres simply needed time to adjust. Now he looks fully adapted. If this version continues, Arsenal do not just have structure, they have a lethal finisher for the biggest moments. His resurgence also comes when Arsenal's attack has become deeper and more dangerous. Gabriel Jesus and Kai Havertz have returned with goals. Gabriel Martinelli continues attacking with pace from the left. Leandro Trossard remains a lethal impact substitute.
Early ball in, Trossard takes it down!
Bukayo Saka keeps deciding games with individual brilliance, and Eberechi Eze adds creativity between the lines. This variety means Arsenal are no longer dependent on a single striker. In this context, Gyökeres becomes a specialist weapon, a pure centre-forward, dominant in the box, capable of bullying defenders and finishing moves quickly. He has proven he was never incompatible with Arteta's system. He only needed rhythm. And if this form continues, he could be the player who ultimately decides Arsenal's entire season. Right now, Arteta and his squad hold their destiny in their own hands, and it is hard to remember the last time Arsenal looked this complete.